Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Moy Style podcast. Today I have Coach Zach Saunders. He's the head baseball coach for Southwestern Oklahoma State University. And today's topic is going to be about getting recruited to play college baseball at a four-year school. So I know a lot of parents and players out there got a lot of questions about this, the best way to go about it. So Coach, appreciate you for being on today. How about you introduce yourself? That way people get to know you, and then we'll jump in with the questions.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. My name is Zach Saunders, the head baseball coach here at Southwest Oklahoma State. I've been here, this is going into my 18th year total. Wow. My 12th as the head coach. And so we're an NCAA Division II school. We play in the Great American Conference. Honestly, one of the best conferences in the country when you talk about Division II baseball. And I think it's just been a good ride here. You know, it's one of those things that the competition is going to be good, and just look forward to every season trying to put out the best product.
Right. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in with the first question. So what age do you normally recommend them starting to look for, start reaching out to coaches and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I would say as they're going into high school, for me is usually when I think is the right time. They're starting to develop, physically. They're at an age where they're going to know if they really want to continue to play or not. I think any earlier than that, I think kids peak really early. They hit puberty early, whatever it may be, right. And their body develops different at 12 and 13 that it's going to at 14 and 15 and 16 and so on. So I would say the high school age, I think when you hit that freshman year, you need to kind of start thinking about the places that would be, the right fit. Ask your coaches, talent-wise, where it makes sense for you to be.
Right.
And then also you shouldn't be thinking about your degree plan at 14, but you should start thinking about what school probably best fits what you're looking for.
Right. That's a good point. What about when it comes to, when you're reaching out to coaches? So, like, if somebody's reaching out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you? Is it email, social media, text message, or coming out to the ballpark, or what's the best way?
I would think, honestly, it's probably a combination of the four. Emails are great. I think the big thing is make sure they're personalized, to where you're trying to go, right, or where you're trying to send them. Make sure it's the student, that's sending them out as well. Those are always really good, especially when they have video attached to them. I think that's the best way to do it. But man, social media is, I think, the most powerful thing going, and it's, if you can DM somebody or make a comment on a post they have or whatever it may be, and right, get your name in front of them. I think it's an easy way. It shows that you care specifically about that coach and that program.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. They want us to care about, any student athlete wants us to care about them specifically as a student. And so I think, it goes two ways. It's like we want the same thing just on the university side.
Right. So what about, would you be opposed to having the kids, like if they're near the area, would you be opposed to them coming out and maybe watching the practices or maybe working out with you guys for a day or something? Would you be okay with something like that? Yeah,
absolutely. I think it would honestly be super beneficial for those guys to come out and actually see the baseball that gets played. I think whether it be some of the lower levels outside of Division I, whether it's NAIA or Division II, or even junior college, I think there comes a preconceived notion of like the baseball not being as high caliber.
Right.
But man, I think if you just spent a couple days, whether it's our place or different places around the region or whatever it may be, I think people would be really surprised about the talent level that you're going to have to play baseball at a four-year university, and even at a junior college. You're going to have to be a talented player, and the game moves really, really fast. And
right.
How much heightened it is compared to a high school level, I think people would be surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty important because sometimes, freshmen could come to a four-year school. You're competing against, kids that are seniors. Sometimes it could be 23, 24 years old, and I feel like sometimes it could be pretty overwhelming. Now, when it comes to sending you videos, so what do you want to see? I mean, I know it's pretty obviously you got different positions, but what do you want to see? Game highlights or just mechanics? Is that a combination of both?
Yeah, I'd say a combination of both. I think, as a hitter, I think showing it from the side is a great view, but also I would say probably behind them,
okay,
how the ball comes off, watch the ball, how it travels into the outfield. Is he a guy that gets on the top side of the baseball too much and kind of overspins it, or whatever it may be.
Right.
We can see the swing side of it from the side view and realize if he's in the zone a long time or whatever it may be. But to see it behind, you can see if he's on time. You can see where he's making contact.
Right.
You can see how the ball jumps off his bat or if it doesn't. And those things you can't really see. But, yeah, some game highlights too. I think nothing simulates a game other than, being right there in the live setting. And so getting to see that and showing multiple different types of hits. I think everybody kind of falls in love with showing the home run, and that's great. But being able to show the ability to hit a backside line drive or, a ball up the middle or handle a breaking ball or whatever it may be, those things I think would be beneficial to see inside of a video. And also, the big thing is trying to make sure the talent level that you're facing on that video is close to what they're going to see too. If you're seeing a kid that on his video is facing, 75 miles an hour, well, that, immediately he's going to have to face something 10 miles an hour harder, when he shows up. And so showing that, I think you made a great point too on when they come into college being 18, having to play against a 22, 23, 24-year-old, especially with COVID and how everything's backed up. We're dealing with guys. We had a kid graduate at 25 last year, with a master's degree, and he's playing against a freshman that's 18. So you're talking a grown man, against, somebody that's trying to develop, I think, into that.
Right. And I think it makes a big difference. And I always talk about myself when it comes to when I was a junior, I was a whole lot different player than I was when I was a freshman. So I think that's pretty important. Now, what about defensively? What do you want to see on the videos? What do you if you have an infielder, what kind of, shots you want to get from them?
Absolutely. I think just the first one's probably straight on ground balls or fly balls, how they move around, how their footwork is, do they have soft hands, are they on time to the baseball, those kind of things. But I think to show whether it's a back view or a first base view or whatever from an infielder to see how the ball carries across. See their arm strength. It's one thing to get a reading on it. It's another thing to watch the ball travel across and know that it's got some carry, or if it's easy across, or if he has to really work hard to get it there. Same with the outfield. I think watching a ball travel in, and I would say probably behind the outfielder on the video would probably be the best way. Just because you'll see the ball come out of their hand and travel to the base at the same time, where if you're behind the base they're throwing to, it tends to be hard to pick the ball up, whatever it may be. And for catchers, show the entire throw. Show when he catches it to when it gets to second. I can't tell you how many times we see a video where a kid says he's a 1.9 or a 1.8, and then we put it on the clock just there watching the video, and it's a 2.2. And so I think just trying to be as open and honest as it is about it, and given as much – there's no such thing as too much video. And so the more they can show, the better, I think, for all of us with multiple different views behind it.
And that was going to be my next question. So how long should the video be? Should it be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or less than that?
Yeah, I would say less. I think if you can do it, inside of a 4 or 5 minute period, it keeps everyone's attention. But at the same time, the hard ones are the one, the one at bat, and the video lasts 15 seconds, and so you're trying to gauge something off of that, whether you should call somebody back or, explore it at all or whatever you're going to do. And so being able to have something, I think, for a minimum of 2.5 minutes all the way up to, I'd say, a 6 or 7 minute video.
Okay. And going back to what you were saying about catchers, lying about your pop time, I think sometimes people get, try to over-impress the coaches, and you don't. There's nothing worse than try to over-impress the coaches, in a video, and then you come out to the field and it's a completely different story. I'm pretty sure that coaches wouldn't be too happy about that when you come out here, but so I think that's pretty important. Now, what about when I feel like some kids are not ready yet to play at a 4-year school? So what do you recommend? Do you recommend going through maybe junior college, or should they walk? Come out here and be a freshman, then be a redshirt, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit specific, I think, to each kid, especially academically. Even more, I think it becomes more and more of a a thing that comes up where a kid is taking college classes in high school or whatever, and so he's so far ahead when he gets out of high school collegiately, and academically, that he kind of needs to go to a 4-year, so he doesn't fall behind. I think when he to go to a junior college where all of his basics are already knocked out or whatever.
Right.
But I can tell you from myself and everybody that's on my staff, we were all junior college guys, like all of us. I was so good at junior college, it took me 3 years to get out. So it was one of those things that I needed the development. Those guys needed the development. And I think if you look at our roster, I would say probably 90% are junior college kids. The amount of reps that you can get from high school going into a collegiate setting, you're allowed to fail and you're allowed to do it and pick yourself back up and go. Where I think if you get to a 4-year, not that redshirting's bad and doing all those things, but you run the risk of kind of getting buried in there. And then they recruit another kid that comes in and, he's a kickback from a 4-year school or whatever it may be. And now you're kind of fighting that uphill battle. So I'm not against it. And some of our best players that we've ever had have been high school kids come in. But they were pretty elite when they got here and worked really hard and worked themselves into, one of them got to continue to play pro ball. The other one was an all-region player. But those guys worked at a mature level that most 18-year-old high school kids don't do.
Right. That's a pretty good point. And I'm not trying to get off subject here, but when you're recruiting somebody, do you look at their social media, post anything that they post out there, videos, pictures? Do you look at that?
Yeah, probably the first thing we look at, honestly. And it's something we talk to our guys here about as they go into the workforce. It's the single first thing that we look at, especially if we get an email and the video is on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is. We go to their profile and start searching through, and I think I understand the privacy settings and all of those things, but I think when you're going to get recruited and I go to look at your profile and it's locked up and I can't see it.
Right.
Not that it's a red flag, but it does give me some concern of, okay, what's on there that we're trying to hide?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Those kind of things. But yeah, we want good people. We want good humans, people that are going to make not only our program better, but they're going to make the people around them better.
Right.
And so if the language that's on there and the things that they're posting are not about the standards that we wanted our program,
right,
it's an automatic cross off. There's not like, well, let me think if they've matured or whatever. It's just it's too much of an issue with so many kids looking for a place that, yeah, if it's on there, it's kind of an immediate no.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to bring that up because I don't think kids realize how important it is. Like coaches they can get on social media and see what you're posting. So it's pretty important. So now, what about when it comes to showcase tournaments? Are you a big believer of those, or do you go to them, and when should they start playing in showcase tournaments? Like, what age do you think you normally recommend?
I would say, kind of to go along with the recruiting side of it, I think as soon as they hit high school, I think it's a good time to do it. And I think if you can do it and show your growth from your freshman year to your sophomore year to your junior year. Mm-hmm. It really puts you in a good spot to be recruited at that point, because people are going to see a constant growth in you, whether it's your height and your weight and those kind of things, or your strength or your exit velocity or your velocity on the mound or whatever it may be. Right. If those things continue to grow and don't stall out from your freshman to junior year, I think you've put yourself in a spot he's projectable, he's going to move on, all of those things. And I think the showcases are a good thing. I think players should be very specific about which ones they want to go to, and making sure that there's coaches there, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting to have a one-on-one interaction at some point with some college coach, and two, that it's run appropriately. They're not asking you to do things that are going to put you in jeopardy or anything like that. And it stands behind a name, that you can trust. I think doing your research on them, making sure that they are reputable, and they've helped move guys on from that showcase, and not just doing one every weekend over and over and over and over again.
Right.
And so I think it almost makes us want to come find where you're going to be at. Mm-hmm. If we've seen the growth and we really like you, okay, which one are you going to next? And not that you can't do multiple, but I would only do 2 or 3 a year. where it puts you in a really good spot to be like, okay, these are the numbers I've shown.
Right.
And just going forward, like, this is what I think I'm going to be able to do. But if they see you every single week, I think it becomes a little bit of a watered down product that you're putting out there and that they're getting to see. And I think the one thing you want to do is you want them to see you with fresh eyes all the time.
Right. No, that's a good point. And do you like if they're in the area, do you get emails about, they tell you where they're at and see if you can go out and watch them play?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the really nice thing when you get an email is like you get a schedule of like when you're going to be able to see them. So whether it's the showcases or their high school schedule or their summer ball schedule or whatever it may be, you're like, okay, I can make that day. That one's close. I can get there. You can do those and still make practice, which is, right. I think people have to understand, especially at a lower level, junior college, Division II, Division III, NAIA, there's not a specific person that goes out and that's the only thing they do is recruit. They're trying to coach somebody and then trying to get to an event and trying to do those things. And so, I think colleges have them. If you see the college that you want to go to, they're having one. If you want to play at Oklahoma State or ORU, or if you want to play at Southwestern or whatever it is, if you see that we're having one, which all of us will have one, go to those. Get in front of that coach's eyes. Make sure that they're seeing you, at that specific school, and you get to interact with their staff. And it's like, okay, I like the way they interact with me. I don't like the way they interact with me. It's not what I thought it would be, or it's even better than I thought.
Right.
And it'll kind of help you go forward.
Okay. Now let's say we have a kid that's a senior in high school, but he just hasn't gotten any offers yet. So what do you do at that point? Do you just walk on, or where do you start?
Yeah, I think at that point you really decide how bad you want to play.
Right.
The hard part about college baseball is the funding is not where it is for other sports. And so that's the thing that always, I think, holds us back. At the Division I level, it's 11.7 scholarships. When you think about a 35-man roster, and that's, you're trying to spread that out there. At the Division II level, usually we're a 40-man roster because we need the numbers, and we have 9. And some of us aren't fully funded to get to that 9. And so that you have to take that into consideration. Some of our best players are walk-ons. We have a third baseman that should have been an all-conference guy last year, has worked his way into getting a scholarship at this point, but he walked on, but he decided he wanted to play so bad that he's willing to put himself in a good spot, bet on himself, and just let the chips fall where they're going to fall and try to work into a scholarship. And so, I would say if somebody's not getting recruited, reach out to make a phone call to a few coaches the places you want to be at. If they're, ask them, is that opportunity available? And if it's not, then you just got to find your best spot that you think you can play immediately. And that's going to be the other side of it.
Is there a certain number you can only take? Or
no, and I would say COVID's probably messed that whole thing up even more, where we used to kind of hover our number right at the 38 to 39 range. I think we've got 43 or 44 on the roster this year, and so it makes it tough because you see good players out there and good kids and guys that you think that can help you, but at some point it's too many. And I would always ask that question: how many are on your roster? How many are you going to carry? If you're at a bed-based school, and you look up and there's 75 people on a baseball team, it's probably not a great fit. It's one of those things where can I go that I can make an impact as fast as possible? Yeah,
that's a great point because, you kind of want to see if you even have a shot to even, chance to play the next year or something. Now, what about when they have multiple offers from different schools? So what do you recommend them? Like, how do they choose one over the other?
Yeah, I think all those questions need to be asked to that coaching staff on each team that you've got an offer from. How many people are recruited at your spot? And how many people do you plan on signing there? What do you see my role as? Obviously, they can't say you're going to play every day and do all of those things, but, in a perfect world, where would you see me playing? And then just going forward, how many people are on your roster? And if you ask those questions and they can answer them pretty easily, it's a good place.
Right.
With a coach that's okay with being open and honest with you. If they dodge the question or they don't want to answer it or
right.
they never really get to the answer of the question, I think it's a huge red flag for you.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't always go where the most money is, and this is coming from a kid that from somebody that grew up needing those scholarships and needing that dollar.
Right.
Not coming from a lot growing up, but at the same time, the fit is way more important than how much scholarship you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Do they enjoy your style of play? Does it lend itself to, if you're a runner, do they like to run the bases? If
Right.
you're a guy that hits for power, are you going to a ballpark that, lends itself to what you try to do?
Right.
Is the coach, is he only concerned with velocity and you kind of are a funky guy that, mixes and matches speeds and, a little bit of Nestor Cortez and, messes with rhythms and all kinds of stuff and,
Right.
Does some of that. So I think it's ask as many questions as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more you ask questions to those offers that you get, the more you're going to be easily narrowed down to like, okay, I know where I'm supposed to be at.
Right, I think that's pretty important because you as a player, you want to be able to know where you're going. I mean, who's going to be coaching you, and it's your career at the end of the day. So you have to be asking, a lot of questions so you know for sure, if that's the place you want to be.
Yep.
Now, I'm just kind of curious about this because I know travel ball has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger every year. I coach a travel ball team myself. But when the kids come up to you, do you ever ask about their trophies or rings? How many?
I can tell you without a doubt, not one time, and we've started, it's, I'm glad you brought that up because, I've got 2 kids myself and our little boy's hit the age where he started that too.
Mm-hmm.
Has started the select and travel ball and we go play on the weekends and you love it when they win and you're excited for them.
Right.
But no, not one time. I've never asked if they won the 18 and under, Perfect Game World Series or whatever. And Perfect Game does a great job, and a lot of other people do too. But not one time. Nor do we honestly care.
Yeah, that's. I asked that because it may sound funny, but a lot of parents get wrapped up in this instead of worrying about the development of the kid. That's really what matters. Because at the end of the day, when they come, try out for him or any schools, they want to see where you're at the time. Not how many rings you got, when you were 10, 11, 12, or, whatever age you were. So so once you're in school, so what do you think makes a successful college player?
I think as soon as you get there, you need to determine a plan for you day to day, what's going to be the best possible scenario for you. Do you need to gain weight? Do you need to lose weight? Does your strength need to get better? Does your bat speed need to increase? Whatever it may be, and base your plan on that,
Right.
and ask the coach, hey, what do you see as the glaring issue with me, or what can I kind of double down on to make myself in the conversation of being able to play? And really work hard at those things. Have a regimented schedule every day. When you get up, when you eat, when you work out,
Right.
when your extra time is, whether you're coming up and doing band work or soft tissue or core work or whatever from the pitching side, or when you're going to be in the cage, and it's like one of our guys who was a 9th rounder said it perfect when he spoke to our group this year. He said, what we do at practice is the bare minimum of what's expected of you. And so all the time outside of practice, I think, is the time management. The kids that are good about time management are the ones that find themselves in there.
Right. What about school wise? Like, how can they become successful? And the reason I asked is because, if you don't pass your classes, you're not going to play. And I'm sure you get this. You get a bunch of players in the fall, and then all of a sudden in the spring, you don't get some of those players coming back. So
absolutely. I think those being really, really good in school, I think, comes from just one, making sure that you're attentive in class, be at every class. And I think the misconception with college is like, okay, well, I can miss a class. Nobody's going to know. I can get by with not doing that. But be in every class. I think if most of the things and most of the struggles that you can get by are just be in the classroom, be in the front couple of rows, be attentive, have your hood off, look at the teacher, make eye contact, make sure you speak to them, at least once a week. Whether it's just like, hey, how's it going? Or, hey, I'm having a problem with this, can you help me out with this? And then if you see that you're struggling, find a study group at night.
Right.
Almost every school in the country is going to have some form of study hall or study groups or whatever it may be with people in your class. And so just trying to find those when you're struggling, those are it. And I would say, this is the parent in me coming out probably, but as soon as you get through with practice, you eat, you hang out for half an hour after that, immediately knock out your schoolwork. And then you can do whatever for the rest of the evening. If guys want to hang out with their buddies and play 2K or whatever they're going to play, that's great. I think that's a part of the college experience, but can they prioritize school, then baseball, and then everything else comes secondary?
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up about, just showing up to class, because sometimes that's all it takes. Like, I always tell people that I dealt with the accent with my English and all that stuff, but I showed up to class and I never had an issue. Like, obviously I struggled a little bit in class, but I was able to play all 4 years. Right. So as long as you're showing up to class, I feel like the school wants you to be successful. It's not like they want you to fail. But you got to be able to put in the work. So that's why I asked that. Now, why do you think players quit or they don't make it through their, all 4 years in college?
Man, I think it's a lot of different things, but I would honestly think the main one is it's hard. This thing's hard. It's a grind. And it's this constant pressure on you to make sure that you're up at the right time, that you're going to class, that you're at practice, that you're completely hooked up when you're at practice, and then being good off the field. It's like this constant, we tease our guys, it's like Groundhog's Day every day. If you've watched the movie at all, where the guy just wakes up and it's the same day every day. And it really is. And I think it starts to get to people. But one thing I love about not only college baseball, but college athletics in general is the mental toughness that you have to do it and do it day in and day out and enjoy the practice and enjoy the weights and enjoy like being with your teammates on long days and, having 20 inning inter squads and, enjoying that part of it. Everybody enjoys the games. Everybody. We all do. Like, it's easy to get up for games. My heart's still beating in my neck when a game starts, and I hadn't played in 20 years, but can you enjoy showing up at 2:00 on a Friday in October, to really grind it out when all you really want to do is get to the weekend?
Right. I mean, and honestly, this year's go by pretty fast in college. Like, you get to play 4 years and that's it, unless obviously you go pro ball. But now, so I like to wrap it up with 4 fun questions here. So looking back to all the years that you've coached, what's your favorite team you've ever coached? I don't want you to be saying
specific,
not a year or a name, but and why? Why was it your favorite team to coach?
I think, one of the teams that was my favorite was probably one of our most successful years, to school history. I think getting to watch the joy on their face to get to do something to kind of, make history at a school,
right?
Do some really special things. But I think there was a huge growth from the beginning of the fall to the spring with that group. It was a group that couldn't quite do things right. We were always missing stuff and never, not on time to weights. And there was always one person kind of slowing it down or whatever. And then it kind of came to a head late in the fall. And you kind of felt it early. We were playing tough, but they just kind of continued on. They were steady. And then all of a sudden they hit their stride at spring break. And, I think we rolled off, 20 of 25 at that point and, really did some special things. And, but I think watching the group, getting to watch them find out their fate, not knowing if they would get to continue to play,
right?
And watching seniors get to just realize that they get to continue on and make history, I think, at school. How do you beat it, honestly?
That's pretty cool. How about your favorite player that you've coached? Again, you don't have to.
I've got a couple of them. They're obsessive, and I think that's what I love about them so much. They were obsessive about everything, and not only baseball but school and being a good human when they were here. we've had really talented people that were jerks, and nobody liked being around them, and they were kind of repellent.
Right.
But the couple guys that I can think of off the top of my head were they were magnets. Like, everybody wanted to be around them, but they were obsessive about what they did, and they weren't concerned with. They were still guys, and like hung out with the team and did all those things. Mm-hmm. But you could tell they were about something. It was like those two guys. Like, there was no doubt, and both of them are very successful at this point. One of them's in the medical field, and another one's in sales, and they're both ultra successful at this point, which is no shock. They're continuing to be obsessive about the things that are important in their life, and things that aren't important, they don't worry about them.
Right. That's awesome. What about the opposite? So your least favorite player?
I can think of, there's probably a handful. And honestly, they're almost the sad cases, because that most of the things that they do that people don't like being around them for is insecurity masked, of like, they think less of themselves, so they act out. Mm-hmm. And I think just people that don't play the game the right way, there's been a couple that have come through that just didn't play the game the way the game deserves to be played. They didn't play it hard, act like the game owed them something. And so it was always somebody else's fault. They were always a victim. It's always somebody. It's the umpire. It's the coach. It's their teammates. It's somebody. They didn't last very long, to say the least. I would say the three that I'm thinking of, they were here a year and moved on, and we kind of helped them move on from that point.
Okay, now what about your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Probably when I get emails from parents instead of kids. That's the big one. It's like, I'm not going to coach the parent. Not that they're not vitally important and people that we're going to lean on along the way, but I'm not going to coach them. I need to hear from the kid. And then when they get the school's name wrong on an email, like, I get it. You're sending out a bunch, and you're trying to get the most out of them, and trying to, I think, maximize your time. But if you can't get the name right, like, I literally don't read it. It's immediate. Like, I'll just delete it, move on. And then probably the last one is just kind of like what I talked about with the least favorite. The game deserves to be played in a manner that I think people, when you think about playing baseball, you should feel like somebody's going to take it from you at any moment. Mm-hmm. And because they are, at some point, whether you're hurt or you're a senior or whatever it is, like, baseball is going to end. And if you're playing every day, like, somebody's trying to take it from you at the end of the day, I think you don't have anything to worry about.
Awesome. Do you have any final advice for parents and players out there?
Yeah, let kids be kids.
Right.
That's probably the biggest one. Nobody's worrying about somebody's exit velocity at 12 years old. Let them be kids. And when they get to high school, I think that's the one thing that I'm thankful for more than anything going through my journey. I had two parents that didn't ever once speak about why you were 0 for 4 or why did you throw that pitch to that kid or whatever it may be. They pushed us really hard, but it was never that. It was, if we played great, it was a good game. If we didn't play great, nothing was said. We got in the car, we went home. And so I think they're going to have enough people through social media and their teammates and everybody at school kind of, I think, putting them on a pedestal and wanting them to fail, that, man, they just need you to love them at the house and be okay with being their parent.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you for your time. It's been pretty awesome. I know a lot of parents and players and coaches out there got a lot of value out of this. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you would like to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and remember, keep it Moy Style. Hey guys, Moy Style Baseball here. If you're interested in infield camp or team infield camp around the nation, just shoot me a text at 251-509-3815. Or you can also email me at moystyle33@gmail.com. Keep it Moy Style.